Hello and welcome to today's show. It's Yanni again. It's great to have you. And you know, I'm sure you've never had days where you felt, oh my goodness, why is everything just going this way? Well, today was one of those days for me. Started out great, and then it just seemed as if everything just wanted to just explode, if I can put it just mildly. But you know what? That is where you and I, that's where we need to realize that we have a creative ability in us. And that's when we have to use creative thinking to bring forth solutions and get ideas to take us out of those situations. And that's what I'm just going to touch on today, and that's creative thinking. So why creative thinking? What does create mean anyhow? Now let's just look at it. The word create really means to give birth to something. So when you and I create something that hasn't been seen before. Now, I know we cannot take something of substance, say, we can't create a tree. We can plant a seed, yes, and a tree can come forth. But you and I cannot create like God created. And yet, He's given us the ability to use our imagination and then think and meditate on what we want to accomplish. And that way, we can bring forth something that has never been seen before. Isn't that exciting? That to me is really almost like the ultimate thing that you and I have been given. Because you and I can come up with solutions for issues that people have and that people had that no one else has ever come up with. And that is so exciting. So you and I can provide a service for someone so that we can help them to get away from this thing that is giving them so much pain and so much grief. And when we come up with that creative solution, then these people, their faces light up and their lives can even be changed. Now, I've been talking about creative thinking. Now, I like to go back and dig a little bit to find out what is the meaning of the words. Now, let's just look at thinking. Now, what is thinking? Now, according to the dictionary, it says, thinking is the action of using one's mind to produce thoughts. Now, like you know, thoughts in itself cannot do anything. But when I think on those thoughts and I meditate on what I want to accomplish, then those thoughts stir up more thoughts. And eventually it comes out of our mouths and we start speaking solutions. Have you ever had it where you couldn't think of a solution for a specific problem, and then you go and speak to someone else and you say, you know what, I'm struggling with this and this, and while you're speaking to that person, you think, oh my goodness, there it is. And the answer just came. And that is what you and I have been given at birth, so that we can come up with solutions that other people need. And someone else is going to come up with something totally different than you, but it's also going to be able to help a lot of other people to get away from I just call it from the pain that is grieving them, something that is not nice in their lives that they want to get away from. Now, the creative thinking gives meaning to life, and it actually even makes things better. And that's how it's supposed to be. Now, I'm going to go way back to creation. When God created everything, He spoke everything into existence. It wasn't there, but He created it, and by speaking it into existence. Now, when we go and we look there in Genesis 1 in the Bible, it says, and the Spirit of God hovered over a whole bunch of chaos. And what does that mean? That's the same thing as when you and I go and think on something and we begin to meditate on it. We think on this subject and we think about solutions. Then in our imagination, pictures start forming. And then when these pictures start forming, it's almost as if in the invisible, you and I can start putting little pieces together. Now, here's just an interesting thing. Imagination is really the womb of your spirit. So that's why the imagination is so important. Now, some people say, that's just, pie in the sky. It's just castles, that you build in your imagination or in your thinking. But it's not. Imagination is one of the most powerful things that you and I have. And just to illustrate to you how it actually works. Now think of something in your life. Maybe it could be long ago, or it could just be in the recent past, and something that happened and something that was a little bit traumatic. Say, for example, you were walking down the street and all of a sudden you heard the tires of this car just screeching on the road. And all of a sudden you froze and you looked to see what was going on. And I can almost guarantee you, if that happens again tomorrow or in a month's time or even longer, and that happens, you will have that same backflash and that same reaction that you had when it happened yesterday or 10 years ago. That's why some experiences are so traumatic for people, because it goes into their subconscious mind, and when something triggers it, it comes back. And then you and I have the ability and the privilege, I think I must say as well, so that we can take those thoughts and we can rule over it. I can say, this is not going to affect me negative. This is going to be used by me to create something positive. And that is the ability that you and I have. So we can go and we can come up with solutions so that we can so that we can provide a service for other people. Now just think about this. God in His wisdom, He didn't give us furniture. He didn't give us shoes. He didn't give us any of these things. But what did He give us instead? He gave us trees. So when you want furniture, when you want a table, for example, what are you going to do? You're going to have to chop down a tree, and then you have to peel the bark off the tree. Then you have to cut these into planks. Then you have to dry these pieces of wood, and then you can start working with it. You can take it to a saw and you can saw it and you can glue them together, and eventually you can make this beautiful table. Now in today's day, we don't do it all ourselves anymore, but someone else is doing it. So you and I can go into a furniture store and we can go and select a very beautiful piece of furniture that was made for us. But where did it come from? Someone had to come up with that idea to cut down the tree and then go through the process and then eventually produce this table. Now, I want you to think about situations in your life that is giving you issues, that is not nice. And then I want you to go and think on these, go into a quiet place and go and think about these things, but really deep thinking. Don't be disturbed. Tell your family in your home. Tell them, listen, I'm going to be away for half an hour or an hour or even longer if you want to. And just go and sit and consciously think of solutions for this particular problem. And someone once told me a story. I applied for a position, and this is many years ago. And he told us the story the one day, this manager, he told us the story. He says, if you struggle with something and you can't get a solution for it, he says, don't focus on it too long, because otherwise, and he called this the hungry chicken effect. Now, I'm just going to try to illustrate it to you, because I said to him, what is the hungry chicken effect? He says, if you take a wire fence and you put a chicken on the one side, and on the other side, you put some corn kernels or some food for this chicken. But the fence is not even that long. He says that chicken will run up and down on the other side of that fence until it collapses, but it'll never go and get the food that is right on the other side. It's almost within reach, but the chicken will never get it. But if you, for example, if you take a dog and you put a dog there, the dog will look at the situation, they will assess it, and they will quickly run around the fence and they will go and get the food. Now, the moral of this story is, don't be like that chicken. So if you've sat now and you've really thought about this and you've concentrated on this, then just break for it for a while. And then just go and walk around the block, or just go and make yourself a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. Just break for like 10 minutes or something and just focus on something totally different. And many times when you come back, then your imagination would have kicked in and you, oh my goodness, there is what I was looking for. And, you know, I just want to go back again. God in his infinite wisdom, he gave us basically 5 call it a mandate, which comprises of 5 things. Now, the first thing he said to mankind when he made man, right in the beginning, he said, I want you to be fruitful. Now, fruitful means to bear fruit, to grow, or to increase. Number 2 is to multiply. And that's exactly what it says. So, bear fruit and bear more and more fruit. And then the third thing that he said, to replenish. So when you come up with this idea or this product or service that you come up with, then you have to replenish this as well. In other words, you're not only going to give it to one person, but you're going to produce more of these, or you're going to approach more people where you can serve them with this product or the service that you came up with. The fourth thing is to subdue, and subdue to basically make it your servant, this thing that you come up with. You're not going to allow it to dictate to you what you're going to do, but you are going to dictate to that circumstance what you want out of it. And that's why I said, you know, even this morning when it just seemed as if everything was just going haywire, I had the choice. And I decided, no, I'm not going to let this thing bogged me down, and I started doing things, and I believe I turned everything around. And you can do the same thing. And the fifth thing is to have dominion. And dominion means to dominate, to rule, to reign, or to take over. Now, this is specifically reserved for things. God said in the beginning, as he created everything, he says that you and I must have dominion over everything that was made, everything that was created, but never over human beings. So that is why it's not cool when human beings try to control and manipulate other human beings. And we've never been given the mandate to do that. We have been given the mandate to dominate the stuff, the things that God created, in order to use it in service of mankind. One last thing that I just feel I just want to mention to you. God being the creator, Paul, one of the apostles, he writes in one of the letters to one of the churches, the Ephesians, he writes there and he says, be imitators of God. That to me is so cool. And that means you and I must come up with creative ideas. Just to give you another story. I think it was in California. They changed the legislation at some stages, this many years ago. So they changed the legislation as far as alarm systems installed in buildings were concerned. And this one man, he had a fairly large company, and that meant a lot of difficulty for them in their organization, because now all of a sudden none of their systems complied to the new legislation, and he didn't know what to do. And he and his wife took 3 days off, and he said, I am going to trust God to go aside, and so that he can give me a solution for this issue. And you know what they did? They did do that, and he went and he sat and he prayed, of course, but then he meditated and he used his imagination. And all this while, God gave him an idea. And you know what happened? He was the first person who came up with a solution for that. So he could not only apply the solution to his systems that he had installed, but all the other companies that had a similar issue now with this new legislation, they came to him, and you could supply the solution to them as well. That's really my heart for you, that you will come up with solutions that no one else has ever thought of, and that you will be able to bring this solution, bring it to people so that they can benefit, but so that you can also benefit. Because as you know by now, nothing that you and I do and that we receive, it's just for ourselves. We get it so that we can really help other people, so we can serve other people, whether it's one-on-one or people in a group or our community or our city, state, country, whatever. But that's what you and I have been called to do. And like I've said, you might have heard me saying that what you have, there are millions of other people that need what you have. And each one of us have something inside of us that other people need. We are not islands. We need each other. So that is as much as I'm going to share with you today about creative thinking. So please go and sit somewhere if you need something, or even if you don't need it today. Just remember these things, how you can come up and use your imagination and deep thinking to come up with creative ideas so that you can make your life easier and better, and also the lives of other people. Thank you so much for listening to me. I'm looking forward to chatting with you in the next show. Have an awesome day.